This is Scarehunter, and you're listening to Scarehunter Storytime. Many short, scary stories to chill your bones. Today's story is called Killgore. So turn off the lights, get cozy by the fire, and get ready for some scares. Have you ever been afraid of clowns? If not, you will after you read this story. Chris never used to be afraid of clowns. In fact, she used to think they were funny and nice. That is, until her encounter with a clown named Killgore. It had been 10 years, but the whole encounter is still fresh in her mind. Chris was 16 at the time, and Chris and her friends would laugh and make fun of people who were afraid of clowns. Her friends decided one day to go with her to the park. After a while, they decided to head back home. Chris was almost out of the park when she got hit in the back of the head. Before she passed out, she heard a man laugh as he said, "A bird in the hand." When Chris woke up, she realized that she was in an old beat-up fun house. As she looked for a way out and struggled to get free, she heard a man laughing. When he came out, she saw that he wore a navy blue business suit. He also had neon green hair, skin white as paper, and blood red lips. He smiled as he looked at her and said, "Goody, another assistant. I needed a new assistant. You see, the others, well, they didn't quite make the cut." As he said that, he turned on the lights, and Chris screamed in horror at what she saw. She saw the dead bodies of his assistants. They all had grins carved on their faces that stretched from ear to ear. While she continued to struggle, the clown grabbed a woman clay mask, put it where she could see, and said, "As I always say, you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs." After he said that, he smashed the mask to pieces with his fist. When he broke the mask, he started laughing, and it was creepy. Once he stopped laughing, he snapped his fingers and said, "I can't believe I almost forgot. My name is Killgore. Please forgive my rudeness. Oh, one more thing." When Killgore left, Chris began to think about where she had heard that name before. After a few minutes, she finally remembered where she heard the name Killgore. There were news reports on TV and in newspapers about a killer named Killgore. He had clown makeup on and wore a suit. Of course, she never believed the reports until that day. After a few minutes of struggling to get free, Chris heard laughing, and she knew that Killgore was on his way back. When Killgore returned, he brought another victim with him. Once he finished tying up the man, he said, "I nearly forgot I had another applicant. I guess you two will have to play one of my games for me to decide." "Oh, I got the perfect game we can play. I'll be right back. Don't move." When he came back, he wheeled in a couple of torture racks and a big octopus tank. He grabbed Chris and the other victim and tied them both to the racks. After Killgore tied them up, he said, "We're going to play a game called 8-Arm Stretch. The rules are simple. I ask you 2 questions. Answer right, and nothing will happen to you. Answer wrong, and I turn the wheels of one of the racks. The one with the least broken bones wins, and the loser gets fed to my octopus. All right now, let's get this party started." He walked around for a bit, then said, "First question is for both of you. What are your names? Chris nervously said, Chris. The man said, Bill. Then Killgore smiled. As he walked around looking at Chris and Bill and smiling at them, Killgore finally pointed at Chris and said, Chris, what's 2 plus 2? She quickly said, 4. Killgore slowly clapped and said, Very good. Now, Bill, it's your turn. How many colors are in a rainbow? Bill had to think for a second. Then he said, 6. Killgore laughed and spun the wheel. When Bill stopped screaming, Killgore chuckled and said, Wrong, there are 7. Everybody forgets about indigo. Question after question Killgore kept asking. He got to Bill once again and said, Bill, how many pieces of toast do you put in a toaster? Bill smiled and said, 2. Killgore grabbed the wheel and turned it again. Once Bill was quiet, Killgore said, Sorry, you don't put toast in a toaster, you put in bread. Then more questions and more turning of the wheels. After an hour of questions, Killgore got to Bill one final time and said, Bill, there's a 1-story house where everything is gray. Chairs, walls, cabinets. What color is the floor? Bill hesitated and said, Gray. What color is the table? Killgore asked. Gray, answered Bill. Then Killgore asked, What color is the flower vase? And Bill said, Gray. What color are the stairs? Killgore finally asked. Bill quickly said, Gray. Killgore laughed and turned the wheel one last time. When Killgore was done and Bill stopped screaming, Killgore looked at Bill and said, It's a 1-story house. There are no stairs. Well, Chris, congratulations, you won. Thank you for playing, Bill, and I have a lovely parting gift for you. A 1-way ticket to the octopus tank. Killgore unstrapped Bill and carried his broken body over to the tank. Bill, unfortunately, couldn't fight due to his limbs being broken. As Killgore threw Bill in the tank, he said, Thanks again for playing 8-arm stretch. While the octopus ate, Killgore untied Chris. Once Chris was free, she kneed him in his manlyhood. As he groaned, he looked at Chris and said, Funny kid. Before she ran off, Chris looked at him and said, Can't say the same for you. After she ran off, Killgore got up and ran after her. Chris climbed up to the catwalk and hid. As she hid, she could see Killgore looking around for her. Chris managed to sneak away from the Hall of Mirrors. To the Hall of Mirrors. She hid in the hall and made some noise to lure Killgore inside. He heard the noise and went inside. While he kept looking, Chris stood in a way that she could be seen in the mirrors, but remained hidden, and started laughing. As Killgore began smashing mirrors, Chris laughed and said, 7 years of bad luck, every broken mirror, you dumb clown. Killgore got angry and said, Shut up! As he continued smashing mirrors, Chris said, What do you need an assistant for if you're just going to kill them? And what's with the suit? Couldn't get a job as a magician? Then did you paint your face but couldn't get a job as a rodeo clown? She continued to laugh, and Killgore got really angry and said, Shut up, you little punk! Chris ran off as Killgore smashed the last mirror. As she hid in the funhouse, she made a spring-loaded boxing glove behind one of the doors. When she was done, she grabbed a mallet. She made more noise, and Killgore followed. When he got to the trap, he heard Chris behind the door. In a sarcastic voice, she said, Oh no, I'm really scared. Killgore angrily said, It's too late for you, kid. I'm gonna bust down this door and I'm gonna get you. Before Chris hid with the mallet, she said, "Okay, come and get me." Killgore slammed against the door. When he got the door open, the spring-loaded glove hit him in the stomach. As he tried to catch his breath, Chris ran up to him with the mallet and said, "Don't you know a kid always wins against a stupid clown?" Then she hit him, knocked him out, and ran off. When she got to the police station, she told them everything that happened. After she finished talking to the police, she called her parents and they took her home. At school, Chris told her friends about the incident, but they didn't believe her until they saw her story in the newspaper headlines. Ever since her encounter, she never made fun of anyone who were afraid of clowns again. She hadn't heard anyone talk about Killgore in those 10 years, so she figured the police had him arrested, and she was safe. Well, until one day when she went shopping, everywhere she went, she was sure she heard Killgore's familiar, creepy laugh. Hope you enjoyed the little story. Unpleasant dreams.